Mr. Rainforest, to begin our finals here in Worcester.
Listen, you asked.
I did start this whole
You
thing.
asked.
I did. As usual, I'm the one at fault here in the booth. There's a Nettle Sentinel for Jessup. Walker with an underground C. He'll pass the turn back. Andrew going to come across for 2 with a Sentinel. Walker down to 18. See what the follow-up is here. Birchler Ranger. That'll trigger the Nettle Sentinel at the very least since he's cast a green spell. We'll see if the Birchler Ranger does resolve, however. There'll be a Brainstorm from Walker. 3 cards coming. 1's a Volcanic Island, 2's a Force of Will, and 3 is a Delver of Secrets. 2 cards will have to go back here.
Not the strongest of hands here from Noah. Though Delver of Secrets is important in this matchup, Elves cannot contain flyers, at least game 1. There's no blocking and no removal, so Noah does need to get some pressure going, and Delver of Secrets is his best route.
So let's see what Noah wants to put back with a Brainstorm here. Spell Pierce in hand, you can see. Looks like he's going to keep the Delver and the Force of Will.
Some indecision here, as there's a lot of implications for, if his next land's a fetch land, he's got to get one of these cards for forever. He may have the option of either keeping the bottom card down or not, depending on what his lands look like.
Well, there's nothing easy about brainstorming. I think we all know that. He's going to force that. Wow. Moving Delver of Secrets. Does not want Birchler Ranger in play.
Well, he's got to contain Andrew's initial mana development. At that point, his removal spells and his threats become a lot more potent. But once Andrew runs away in terms of mana, Noah does not have a lot in his deck that matters.
Pluto Delta will sacrifice and find a Volcanic Island. Walker down to 16. We'll see what his follow-up will be here in just a moment. It's a young Pyromancer, so he's got a threat. Now we'll go Jessup's way. He'll draw a card. In comes the Nettle Sentinel. Walker, no interest in blocking. So hook it on to 14. It'll be a Zenith for 0. That means a Dryad Arbor's on the way. Nettle Sentinel will untap. Yeah, it looks like that'll be Jessup's turn. Though I suppose he hasn't played a land yet, so maybe something like a Gaia's Cradle could show up.
Missed a land drop last turn, so I think most likely scenario is whiffing again here, as there is days in Noah's deck, so want to play that land before the fact.
Gataxian Probe. I'll show you a glimpse. And a couple copies of natural. That's 3 natural orders. Hello.
Ooh. It stinks.
Not a great hand at all.
I mean, if Andrew draws a 1-mana creature next turn, it could still get good, but that's a rough hand.
Doing a Cabal Therapy check right now on Noah Walker's deck list.
There are 0 in the main deck.
There's at least 1 Forge Bolt, because that's just resolved. Took care of the Dryad Arbor.
Tough turn,
To say the least. Attack for 2.
Yeah, Noah willing to trade one of his best creatures in the matchup here just because, well, Andrew's left with the Forest and a hand of Glimpse and 3 natural orders. And if he doesn't block, that's fine too.
Looks like Jessup may actually block here.
This is one of those no good options sort of situations.
And it certainly feels that way, right? See what we have here. Dig through time.
Just get another token on the way out.
Good turns here for Walker. Jeez, it's a good mulligan.
Yep.
And Jessup's hand is truly horrible.
And once Noah figured out that Brainstorm, he has been playing ultra fast.
Yep. Take a look at 7. Gets to take 2 with him. He'll pass the turn back. Jessup will draw. We know his hand. 3 natural orders and a glimpse. That's a Wooded Foothills that can turn into a Dryad Arbor. Walker will draw. Serve with the 3 elemental tokens. Jessup down at 15. There's a Delver of Secrets. There's a Deathwreck Shaman. Kid doesn't lack confidence, tell you that much.
Hard not to feel confident during this game.
Yeah, give it a beatdown. Delver flips. Into the red zone we go. And we'll have a Dryad Arbor here in just a moment, I believe, for Andrew. There's the Dryad Arbor. I'm going to show you a Force 1 with Spell Pierce and says this game is over. So
Noah knows the whole hand.
Yep.
Andrew's done nothing but draw land since, so. Noah trying to save us all some time here.
He's got somewhere to go.
Yep.
Clearly, Noah Walker's going to win game number 1 here over Andrew Jessup. Grixis Delver up a game over Elves. Sideboard time. We start with Jessup and his Null Rod, his Needle, his Reclamation Sage, and his Scavenging Ooze. A Sylvan Library, a Progenitus, 3 Replicate, 3 Cabal Therapy, and 3 Thoughts. See, it's going to be a lot different sideboarding here than it was against lands last round.
Yeah, I think that you're going to see the Scavenging Ooze coming in here as Noah's using his graveyard as a resource here. I think the Sylvan Library is a pretty solid card to bring in as the game could go on for a long time. Noah's boarding into a lot of removal. And I like bringing the copy of Progenitus in this matchup. It's going to be hard in a lot of games for Andrew to assemble a big board for Craterhood Behemoth, but Progenitus through natural order can steal something.
On the other side there for Walker, 2 Grafdigger's Cage, a Pithy Needle, an Ancient Grudge, a Dark Blast to Dismember, a Flusterstorm, 2 Pyroblasts, a Spell Pierce, a Submerge, a Vendilion Click, 2 Cabal Therapies, and a Fork Bolt. He's got some nice cards on the board.
Yep, love the Fork Bolt, love the Vendilion Click, love the Submerge, big fan of the Dismember, the 2 copies of Grafdigger's Cage, the Pithy Needle, and the Dark Blast is a game plan onto its own. If that card shows up and Noah's backing it up with some pressure or other removal spells, Andrew might just get locked out of the game.
Yeah. Dark Blast can be absolutely filthy against this against this deck, excuse me. Really, really tough to beat.
Dispel every turn for Young Pyromancer, guaranteed. Mows down most of Andrew's creatures. Fills up the graveyard for cards like Dig Through Time. The old Gurmag Angler.
The beatdowns.
In the house.
Absolutely. Well, Jess will be on the play here for game number 2. He'll sideboard accordingly, as will Walker. As Walker able to steal game number 1, even though he was on the draw. We'll talk for the last time about the Origins Game Fair, and where Star City Games will have 5 awesome days of Magic.
Right around the corner after next weekend, June 3rd through 7th in Columbus, Ohio. If you're not qualified for the Invitational, don't worry. There'll be plenty of opportunities to qualify through the Last Chance Invitational qualifiers. We're going to have a super game night. Of course, the Invitational, the Open Series event, IQs, many more tournaments, over $80,000 in cash prizes given away. And if you're interested in other games, like board games or tabletop games or so forth, well, you are at the Origins Game Fair, so there will be plenty of things to do while you are there, Magic or otherwise.
And don't forget, if you do win the Invitational like Jacob Wilson did during season number 1, you get an awesome token, your likeness on a card. You see Jacob Wilson here, the Monastery Mentor Monk token. A couple different ways you can go about getting it.
Although we are running out of the first 2, 20K Open Series players and 5K Premier RQs, Columbus is basically going to be your last opportunity unless you're playing in 5K Premier RQs at the local level. And all orders from StarCityGames.com of $5 or more will come with this token. If you want to get your hands on this token, either show up to Columbus or place an order from the website today.
What's your token of choice? I believe it was Assemble the Legion, maybe?
That was a while ago. I would have taken an Assemble the Legion token. Now, I'm less confident.
You're a changed man.
Well, before there was a slight chance that you would show up, and now essentially 0.
I liked that card a lot, actually.
It was cool.
I thought it was a good design.
Yeah, it was sweet. Sweet design. Good feeling of being overwhelmed by this army, slowly but surely.
Yeah, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Like, that kind of card, it felt like a good, like, it just felt like it was designed correctly.
Yeah.
But much in the same fashion like Hornet Nest.
Right.
It just makes sense how it was designed.
Yes, very solid design. Power level in the right spot.
Yeah, not busted.
Not
just
busted.
Good.
Because it's potentially a frustrating card to play against with it if it's a very high power level, because it locks up the ground pretty fast if you're just attacking with random ground creatures. Assemble a Legion, a more powerful version of Assemble a Legion, could potentially lock you out.
Yeah, you know, if it costs like 2 mana and made it 1/1 flyer and you lost life every turn,
right?
That would probably be unpleasant to play against.
Right. It would be very good on offense, very good on defense.
Yeah.
It would invalidate a lot of creature removal. The cost probably just isn't high enough.
But since it doesn't do that and it's 5 mana, it's kind of cool.
Reasonably fun in games.
Yeah.
Just picking theoretical designs out of the air and all.
What are you talking about?
Right. Yeah.
I just thought of a card.
I'm just imagining designs to compare it to.
See if Jessup can steal game number 2 here. He is going to be on the play, so that'll certainly help. Though it didn't help in the last game. I'll tell you, this does get harder for him after sideboard. That Dark Blast, that Fork Bolt.
Very good sideboard cards. I think that it was very important for Andrew to pick up game 1.
I think so too.
Because I think he's actually behind in the post-board games. I think he's got enough an advantage game 1 that I think the matchup on the balance is good for him, but being down a game here is really bad news. Fork Bolt, Submerge, Vendilion Click, Dark Blast, Dismember, 2 Graphic Cages. Forces Andrew to bring in these Abrupt Decays that aren't very good in the matchup otherwise.
I think that's the problem.
So Andrew's deck is diluted. He's playing against more removal, more pressure. Really bad news for Jessup.
Yeah, I wouldn't be feeling great looking at that sideboard.
No.
Not that I can't win, because I can, but it seems like it's going to be rough. But Andrew Jessup has overcome some rough things this weekend. Remember, #1 overall seed. He has not lost very much this weekend.
Mostly ran through the event.
Yep.
Very impressive performance with Elves.
Got the cards at the last minute thanks to his brother and social media.
Very surprising run, too, because our most popular deck in the second day here, Miracles.
Yeah.
A deck that typically preys upon Elves.
Elves is pretty popular, too, but I agree. I was a little bit surprised to see this kind of a run from Elves.
If you saw the day 2 metagame breakdown, you would not have anticipated that Elves would be the #1 overall seed.
No, definitely not. And actually pretty fortunate for Jessup if you think about it. To get by an Elves deck in the quarterfinals is rather fortunate. And also Joe Lissette and Sam Raukish drawing in their last match.
Yeah, could have broken a lot differently.
Yeah,
for sure.
This could have gotten really ugly for him.
And then winning that matchup against Lands, which, you know, the games that Andrew won were quite lopsided, but very dangerous draws out of the Lands deck in the matchup.
Yep.
As we saw in game number 2.
There was some fumbling and stumbling.
Last few people should be finding their seats.
But another impressive run for David Long. I know he hasn't gotten that trophy yet with Lands, but every time we see him playing Lands in a Premier IQ at an event or in the main event Legacy, he's always making a run.
It's a very tough deck to play against if you're not familiar with all the nuances. And
Such as roll a die.
most people, as you mentioned earlier in the broadcast, are not looking to play against Lands. It's a fringe deck. The games are not necessarily that enjoyable to grind out and figure out all the nuances. And I think good Lands players get some pretty big edges by most people just not being that well versed in the matchup.
Yeah. Jessup with a very quick mulligan here. See if Walker likes his opening hand. He mulligan last game.
These mulligans are so punishing for Jessup in the post-board games here because Noah's loaded up on more and more removal.
Yeah.
Really amplifies the impact of the mulligans.
At this last round of Modern. So if you have any
Looks like Noah's still pretty unsure.
for us for store credit, have any final purchases? If you have a bigger
And now he
order,
will keep.
please come by and see us before we close. Thank you.
So let's see Jessup's 6 cards here. Mulligan of 5 would be no good. It's tough for Elves to win a mulligan of 5. They can certainly mulligan once. It's hard if they mulligan twice.
At that point, you're looking to seal the game with natural order.
Yeah.
That's how the 5-card hands usually go, because you lack the critical mass to go off with glimpse.
There's a Dried Arbor. See if Walker has something like his Dark Blast. He does not. That would have been a disaster.
Yes. The game may have ended before it even really started.
Yep. Doesn't look like he has it at this point, though. So Jessup gets to untap and take a draw step here. Picked up a copy of Misty Rainforest. Lands don't appear to be a problem. There's a Wirewood Symbiote. Cradle. It's a pretty good draw. Deathrite Shaman.
Very powerful opening thus far.
Here's 3 mana. Elvish Visionary.
This is where Noah's got to stop it if he can.
Yeah, if he has a forest, you got to counter this thing.
Or you have to kill the symbiote.
Yeah, that resolves. Trigger draw. 1 mana floating right now. Yep, activate, bring back Visionary probably. Maybe not. Interesting spot. So I think what he wants to do is he wants to bring back Visionary and untap Dried Arbor and cast Visionary again, but he has to worry about days.
And I don't know if he really has anything else going on in this hand besides the Visionary.
Yeah. Now we're going to get a sacrifice of the Pluto Delta. There's at least a Brainstorm in Walker's hand, but he might try to brainstorm in a days to get the Visionary off the table. We'll see.
No, at that point, I think he may have been served by brainstorming a response to the Visionary to try to find force.
Sure. Float. There's days. Pretty good to have that there.
Yeah.
That's why you saw Jessup pause, because he was certainly worried about that. Here's a Brainstorm. With that mana left over. It's 3 cards drawn. Of course, 2 will go back.
You see Noah picking up a Lightning Bolt here. And that's why I'm an advocate for bringing in Progenitus in this kind of matchup. Noah's going to do a much better job in the post-board games of containing Andrew's board. He's going to have just more bolts, more removal spells. And so trying to win with Craterhoof Behemoth is challenging. But Progenitus is pretty solid.
Well, we know how things work if you bring Progenitus in on camera.
Yeah.
You draw it, so probably better leave it on the board. 2 cards go back with Brainstorm. Take a draw step, Will Walker. Flooded Strand will be sacrificed. See what lands he wants to nab. Could be a Volcanic here. Yep. Return that Lightning Bolt, go after that Wirewood Symbiote.
I believe Noah also with a sideboarded Submerge in hand.
Yeah, you mentioned it. His sideboard cards are tough.
Yep. Submerge is not necessarily the end of the world for Elves, but it's just another piece of the puzzle, another 0 mana spell that Andrew has to play around.
Yep, Submerge that Dried Arbor. What's interesting is if Jessup just has natural order here for Progenitus, might just win.
Yeah.
Cradle taps for 2 right now. This is 3 mana, might be a Zenith here. It's going to be a, oh yes.
Oh, could be anything.
Yep, it's very unclear what that morph is. Here's an attack for 1. I didn't think we'd have to get the morph token out.
Protector, a Death Miss Raptor, perhaps.
Maybe he went big with Sagu Mauler.
Yep.
We did see a lot of hidden Dragon Slayer in Dallas. Here there is a Deathrite Shaman in play. All colors of mana are available.
Yeah. Pretty against the Gurmag Angler.
That's true. That doesn't even take into account. It doesn't have to only be standard morphs. We could dial up legions here. Onslaught, something of that nature.
Oh, yeah. I know them all still.
Do you?
Burned into my memory from hours and hours of drafting.
Tell me 3 green morphs.
Snarling Underak. That's 1. Birchlore Rangers is 2. And another green morph.
Oh, yes. There's the Underact.
I wish I could remember the giant growth morph from Legions.
Etched into my memory. Burned into my brain.
I never drafted green. You'd have to be stupid to draft green. That format.
Here's an attack for 3. There's a Misty Rainforest. That'll provide-
Crozan Cloud Scraper.
That's like cheating. You go to the big one.
Mm-hmm.
Can't name one at common or uncommon.
I gave you Underak.
That's true. Mr. Rainforest here to provide the black mana for Deathrite Shaman.
Or Snarls Barkley, as he was known in certain circles.
A great nickname, a classic.
Mm-hmm.
There's Young Pyromancer. I believe just passing the turn back here. So Walker's doing a pretty good job, but natural order is still a concern here.
If Noah has Force of Will, he's got to feel really comfortable.
Yes.
Because Andrew's probably not going to be able to win this game by any other route other than the natural order or a bunch of mana Green Sun Zenith. And Andrew clearly is running very low on relevant resources. So one good answer spell, Noah should feel really good. But if he doesn't have Force of Will, he knows that he's liable to die to a top deck at any time.
Time to untap and take a draw. Abrupt again. I think he drew the Progenitus again.
Naturally. Swims to the top of the deck. It's shuffled somewhere deep into your deck. It swims to the top, and then pokes its head out.
There's an attack for 4. Saw Abrupticate take care of the Young Pyromancer. There's Ponder. Yeah, Walker's actually having some trouble here.
Yeah. I mean, if he finds a blocker and then a removal spell for Deathrite Shaman, it's all stabilized.
Yeah.
It's not asking a lot, but he is taking some lumps.
He'll keep. Wasteland's going to go after either the Black Source or the Dryad Arbor. It's going to go after the Bayou.
That's an indicator that he has a creature to block with.
Leads me to believe that as well.
Wants to cut off black for the Deathrite Shaman.
Underground Sea with the fetch land.
Are we angling? Or anglering? Or whatever?
We're taking a trip. We're taking a trip to Gurmag. The big guy.
Everyone's favorite zombie fish.
All right, Jessup, take a draw. Yep, that's unbelievable.
Is it?
It
happens
Progenitus is always in their hand?
It happens so often that I just assume that's how that works.
It's complete lunacy. It always happens. Every time someone's on camera and they boarded Progenitus to natural order 4, they always draw it. Ross has done it like 4 times. Jessup's done it both times he's boarded on camera today.
I especially love it in the games where the player's sitting there thinking, come on, natural order, come on, natural order. So you draw the Progenitus, which is bad enough, and then it also means that natural order no longer works.
It's truly unbelievable. So Progenitus and X are the cards in hand. I believe the other draw was a Queer and Ranger. Mm-hmm. And the morph, it's still unclear what the morph is.
Yeah, anyone's guess.
Deathrite Shaman is going to tap to add a mana, and then Queer and Ranger is going to pick up a forest, untap Deathrite Shaman, There's a black mana floating. Now you use this. You remove this Abrupt Decay, put you down to 5. Replay the Forest. 1 mana closer to Progenitus.
Yeah, Birchlore Rangers down. You never know.
We don't know what the morph is.
Assuming that's Birchlore Rangers, don't know for sure.
Yeah, I like getting. I thought he might get in here with everybody. He would get him down to 3.
I think these Elves decks should consider having Elvish Piper in their sideboard for when they bring in the Progenitus, because if you're just going to draw it. And it's an elf, it still has all the synergies.
You can see it for it.
You can see it for it?
Yep.
I'm just saying as a backup plan. But Noah still has to answer this Deathrite Shaman. Now
Yes.
Jessup has the ability to both make mana and activate.
There's a Brainstorm. Walker able to find something like a Lightning Bolt to get Deathrite Shaman off the
And I
table.
believe he's picked up a bolt.
Yeah, I think so. Then life is a lot easier.
Yeah.
Walker gonna have to put 2 cards back here. He's already drawn some of his sideboard cards. We've seen the Submerge already. The Angler is playing the role of Roadblock right now. 2 cards going back there for Walker. Brainstorm done resolving. You can tell he's still in a little bit of trouble. He's getting close to stabilizing and turning the corner, but still in some trouble here.
You don't want to take these random shots and have Andrew be able to go wide and finish off the game that way.
Yeah, that would be bad news. Bolt going to go towards the Deathrite Shaman.
Andrew picking up his hand, just confirming that it is in fact the Progenitus.
Birchlore in the house. Tap that a black. Pick up the Forest, untap Deathrite. Push you to 3. Fighting over here.
Now I'm curious here,
Waste time to take care of that.
if Noah could have waited assuming that Jessup would run that play at the end of Noah's turn and then
Sure.
bolt in response.
Here's a Forest. 2 mana. Visionary? Yeah. Daze is good. If he wants to daze it. Yep.
Which he definitely does. I mean,
Yeah.
Noah's at 3 here. Visionary is a very dangerous card.
Volcanic Island? Oh,
Ooh, we've shifted gears.
that's bad. That's bad. I guess Deathrite Shaman is a roadblock.
Yep. 1-2 plays here.
Visionary the draw. Try to make the same play again. Trigger and draw. Get to use the Querin Ranger. Pick it up. Untapped there.
And this is the going wide scenario we alluded to before.
Uh-huh.
And Noah has no green mana in his deck unless he gets a second copy of Deathrite Shaman into play, so the life gain mode, not an option. Excuse me, 1 Trop hanging down there, but no way to fetch for it currently.
Take a draw. (14-3) in favor of Jessup right now. He's just trying to close this out before Walker draws into that Tropical Island and remove creatures, or maybe that Dark Blast would be problematic right now. There's a Brainstorm. That's always good. Fork Bolt would be a really good draw. A lot of good draws here available for Walker.
Very important for Walker to be able to continue to attack here. He doesn't want the game to go on for a very long time. At 3, there's a lot of very dangerous draws hanging out in Jessup's deck, and it's possible Jessup could just deploy enough Knuckleheads and go around all the blockers. And I think Noah may have picked up his Fork Bolt.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is just a quick
There's Fork
announcement.
Bolt.
The concession
Clear out Bursler
stand
Ranger and
outside
Elvish
will be
Mystic.
closing in 30 minutes.
They're both
Once
going.
again, the concession stand outside will be closing at 8 o'clock.
Deathrite Shaman is going to remove something. There's Grafdigger's Cage.
Very powerful setup.
Yep.
Chen Gong, if you're in the room, please come up to the stage.
No cards in hand for Noah Walker. There's Wirewood Symbiote. Clear for takeoff. Yep, block one, pick it up. Untap there. Andrew's just chipping away.
Got in a point that
Just
turn.
chipping away. Got my point in. Your turn. What's this?
Oh no. Oh no. Not like this.
There's Dark Blast. The chipping away is going to slow down now.
I think Noah probably wants to hold tight for one turn,
Yep.
and then he can start going on the offense.
Cradle the draw. That doesn't help very much. Timely Dark Blast. You knew if he ever drew that after sideboard, it would be very, very hard to win. Not sure if it's here specifically for this matchup, but there's definitely some overlap with Dark Blast in the format. Really good against Death and Taxes, too.
It's one sideboard slot. It could be any piece of removal. And I like using one where if it shows up in the right matchup, it's so much better than just one piece of removal.
Dark Blast yet again, going to go up to Queer and Ranger. Angler's coming in now. Jessup is down to 9. He'll draw a card. Angler's really good at closing the door on this game. There's Heritage Druid, Cradle, Pass. Last card in hand, still Progenitus. Got to be dredging in. There's no better draw set than Dark Blast.
Yep. All Noah wants is a kill spell.
Yep. Fire away. Heritage Druid.
And this shuts the door on natural order mattering.
Yeah, especially with Cajun play too. It's just
Yeah.
nothing doing now. Take a draw. Jessup is his last draw of the tournament. Progenitus in hand. Other cards a mystery. He'll pass that turn back. Walker gonna dredge one more time. Young Pyromancer, dig through time, fire away, and that is gonna do it. Noah Walker is going to win this match here over Andrew Jessup. Grixis Delver is your champion here in Worcester.
Yeah, I mean, the sideboarded cards were definitely relevant there. Grafdigger's Cage shut a couple of doors there. Submerge was a critical player. Fork Bolt was really important, and then Dark Blast sewed it up.
Congratulations to Walker, beginning to make a name for himself here on the Open Series circuit. We saw him in the top 8 at Providence with Jeskai Aggro and Standard, and now at Grixis Delver. He wins. He's our Legacy Open champion. $5,000, 25 Open Series points, and invite to our Season 2 Invitational.
I also